The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
So, good evening, everyone. I'm Diwakar Yadav, Mutual Fund Product Manager from HDFC Securities. First of all, I would like to thank all the participants for taking out the time and joining this webinar. In today's webinar, we are going to learn about one NFO which is currently going on, that is Motilal Oswal Nifty Defense Index Fund, which started on 13th of this month and ending on 27th of June. And to discuss that, we have Mr. Pratik Oswal with us and with his colleague Mahavir. Pratik Oswal is currently Chief of Passive Business, and prior to this, he was heading operations and finance at a Series A fintech startup, that is Stratify Technologies, in San Francisco. The company was backed by prominent investors such as Y Combinator, Osla Ventures, and many others. Pratik has experience in working in investment banking, private equity, and also ran an option arbitrage desk. So welcome, Pratik. Over to you now.
Thanks, Diwakar. Thank you, HDFC Securities, for having me and having Motilal Oswal here on this webinar. We're very excited to launch a new NFO. As you know, Motilal Oswal has been launching a lot of NFOs in the last 4 years. Within the passive category, we have over 35, 36 funds today across market caps, sectors, factors, internationals. So and also commodities. So we believe that there should be a passive fund in every asset allocation bucket. And today we are launching our first thematic fund, and this is a very exciting fund. It's come in a very exciting opportunity, and we've already seen insane amount of progress for this fund, and we believe that this could be an excellent fund for long-term wealth creation for our clients. So the name of the fund is Motilal Oswal Nifty India Defense Index Fund. It's a passively managed fund. It's a passive fund, so the benchmark in this fund is Nifty India Defense TRI, and the objective of the fund is to replicate the benchmark as closely as possible. And we are very excited to launch this fund because we have had a lot of inquiries from investors who are looking to play the defense sector. We believe that as a house at Motilal Oswal, we are very long-term positive on this sector. Already a lot of these stocks are owned in our actively managed portfolios, and we believe that defense, if you compare to overall Nifty 50 or 500 or any diversified mutual funds, defense is a very small proportion of most diversified mutual funds. So we believe that by having a specific thematic funds that plays on defense, it could be a wealth creation opportunity for investors who are looking at this space closely. So as a house, we're very long-term positive on this on this sector, and we believe that if you look at the overall portfolio, we believe that most of your portfolio should be in broad-based funds like a flexi cap, multi-cap, Nifty 500 type of schemes. But we believe that a lot of investors who have the risk appetite could look at thematic funds or sector funds from a long-term perspective. So I think we believe that even though yes, the sector has run up, the sector has done extremely well in terms of past performance, we advise our investors to really take a long-term view on this on this sector. And this is a good opportunity for anyone who's looking from a long-term perspective. So we have Mahavir Kaswa also on the call. Unfortunately, because of health reasons, I won't be able to. Mahavir will take lead on this call. He'll be able to go through the presentation and also be able to answer questions. Mahavir is a head of research and product at MOAMC. So he's responsible for a lot of the content that you see out there on this fund. So he'll be taking this forward, and if you have any questions, please feel free to put it down in the chat group. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Pratik, for the quick introduction on the defense fund. And good evening, everyone. This is Mahavir Kaswa. I'm heading the research and products for the Motilal Oswal passive fund particularly. So we are actually very excited to announce the new fund offering for the defense fund. And the idea behind this, like Pratik very well explained, that we found that this is one particular category where there is a very limited scope for investors to take a systematic exposure through a particular fund. Why not create something like this for the investors per se? When we were analyzing the defense sector, we found that India's defense sector is witnessing a lot of growth, which is unseen earlier. There have been a lot of challenges for the defense sector earlier. Whenever we used to procure some equipments, we used to modernization, there used to be always delays into that. And what we have observed over the last 5 to 7 years, there have been a lot of changes that has happened in defense procurement, in defense budgets, and we'll actually go through the entire presentation, which will help us understand that. And that gives us a lot more confidence to consider launching a fund on this particular theme. I'll just reconfirm the audience has access to the presentations that I'm presenting right now. So let's start with the numbers. Like defense is a global theme for sure, and predominant spender in the defense is led by China, led by US. One of the US's distinct largest spender on the defense theme. China and Russia are the largest spender for sure. And what we see is that defense spending is one thing for sure is keep rising. It has barely fallen over a decadal, like we see the data here for 1 decade, but when we look back data for a long period, we found that it is always an upward trend. Of course, the spending is steadily increasing at the CAGR of 3%. That's a global spending. This is primarily, if you look at the particularly the financial calendar year, particularly for the 2023, we have seen substantial increase about 20%. I think this can be attributed to the various geopolitical crises that we're seeing right now, maybe Middle East, maybe Ukraine-Russia war, maybe Israel's Gaza conflict that's going on. And there have been a lot of other silent conflicts that are probably going through where a lot of countries are procuring defense material, making them self-reliant. And that's where the spending is also increasing. Like I mentioned, like various conflicts that are going through, but one of the most major reason where the people are spending their money on defense is to maintain peace. This can be slightly counterproductive, but if you have to understand that a country which is very well equipped on our defense preparedness will probably barely go through the war on their soil, and that's where the peace part of the defense comes in. Wherein if you're well prepared, I think there's a good chance that you will probably avoid the conflicts to other countries particularly. Like I mentioned earlier, the US is distinct spender on the defense equipment or preparedness. China is the second largest. India has made a huge progress over the last 10 to 15 years, wherein India was somewhere about 50 years ago, India was below top 10 spenders when it comes to defense spending. And over the last few years, we have seen India making a lot of progress in terms of their preparedness for the defense. And as we see today, India is the fourth largest spender when it comes to defense spending. And the growth rate for the India has been very substantially high as compared to the global averages. We have seen global average close to 3% CAGR on an annualized basis, whereas India is actually growing 3 times to the global averages, which is very astonishing. This is, of course, has come from various adversaries that we're experiencing from our neighboring countries, and wherein Indian government is spending a lot of money into modeling the defense equipments, strengthening the existing capabilities as well. And when it comes to budget allocation of overall India's budget, recent budget we saw in 2023-24, close to 13% of the overall budget was allocated towards defense. This is significant allocations as compared to other large countries such as US or China. If I'm not wrong, the average allocation to their defense preparedness is about 4 to 5%, whereas India's allocation to defense is about 13%, which is definitely significantly higher than the global peers that we see on the counterpart. India has been traditionally a large importer of defense equipment. Most of our equipments, when it comes to defense requirement, may be like rifles to the guns, or maybe the Bofors kind of a thing, or the tanks, or maybe even advanced equipment when it comes to defense thing. We used to always import them, and our share of import to different countries has been very large. Particularly Russia has been substantially high. Currently, the 36% of our imports is through Russia, but if you look back historically, Russia attributed to close to 70% of our defense requirement, which we recently diversified towards other Western countries, which was very important for us when it comes to even relationship with them. The France and USA has got a very significant allocation of our defense preparedness over the last few years. The last 4 to 5 years, which is 2019 to 2023, We have spent close to 10 billions of import bill on India's defense preparedness, and Russia, France, and USA are the largest beneficiary of that. As I mentioned earlier, like a couple of major adversaries that we have, and both of them are very powerful when it comes to their defense preparedness, maybe nuclear preparedness or maybe even other war preparedness. They are very powerful. We need to be equally powerful as well. We have huge land to defend, a huge coastal line to defend as well, like more than 15,000 kilometer of border that we have to defend when it comes to neighboring countries, and even large coastline, which is also spanning to more than 7,500 kilometers, which we have to defend. Um, uh, uh, with the likes of China's and Pakistan particularly. Separately also, we have had a lot of delays in modernizing our defense equipment. Like a classic example can be our Air Force, for example. Like we have had a lot of delays in procuring the advanced aircraft, which is generation 4 or generation 5. Recently, we have had a major success into that. So over the last few years, we have seen a lot of movement on the defense preparedness when it comes to India's challenges for that. And moving on, another important point is where the drivers will come from. जो हमारे defense preparedness के जो drivers है, I'm just suggested by someone to speak in Hindi, so please bear me with the Hindi as well. I'll try my best to speak in Hindi. So आत्मनिर्भरता is a very important point. Like जो अभी Indian government की जो policies है, काफी हद तक उनको डिफेंस जो प्रोक्योरमेंट होती है, लाइक इफ यू रिमेंबर कारगिल वॉर में हमें काफी जगह पे जीपीएस लोकेशंस का जो एक्सेस चाहिए था यूएस ने डिक्लाइन किया था, या वी वांटेड सम एडवांस गन्स दैट पॉइंट इन टाइम जो हमें डिक्लाइन किया गया था वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज से. तो ये सब चीजों को देखते हुए इंडियन गवर्नमेंट हैज टेकन अ वेरी गुड इनिशिएटिव टू बिकम सेल्फ रिलायंट, जहाँ पे हम अपने इक्विपमेंट जो है, मोस्ट ऑफ द इक्विपमेंट वी वांट टू प्रोक्योर इंडिजिनियसली इंडिया में बनाएंगे. उससे हमारी इकोनॉमी को भी बेनिफिट होगा. एट द सेम टाइम टेक्नोलॉजी, इंडियन जॉब्स भी बढ़ेंगे, and reliance on the other countries is going to reduce significantly. So आप अगर देखोगे तो अभी हमने जैसे recently Rafale aircraft procure किए थे, so there we also had a clause which is a defense offset clause, जहाँ पे हम लोगों ने एक clause maintain किया था कि जहाँ पे 30% of a requirement of any import that we're doing, we will have them produce internally. So like for example, if whenever we have to service the Rafale aircraft, the significant portion of our parts will be manufactured in India itself. So defense offset clause are also been introduced. Defense procurement is moving fast. Most important thing that is happening here is fair or equal treatment to the private companies. That is the most important boost that the government has given. Because of this, we see a lot more fast movement of the contracts that have been awarded, and a lot more competitive pricing is happening there. So Make in India has been getting a lot more boost over here. Particularly, and very interestingly, like significant, as I mentioned earlier, हम लोग काफी सारे equipments जो थे हम लोग import करते थे. तो गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने एक टाइमलाइन बनाई हुई है जहाँ पे हर साल certain number of items will not be allowed to be imported. जो हम लोग बहुत सारे आइटम जो import करते थे उसमें से बहुत सारे आइटम अभी उन्होंने cut down किया है, and they all will be required to be manufactured in India. So अगर हम इस तरह से देखते हैं तो 2027 तक 4,600 ऐसे लिस्ट ऑफ आइटम्स है जो गवर्नमेंट ने अनाउंस किए पब्लिकली, जो हम लोग इंपोर्ट करना बंद कर देंगे. वो सब हम लोग इंडिया में मैन्युफैक्चर करेंगे. ये एक बड़ा अपॉर्चुनिटी है जो इंडियन कॉर्पोरेट्स के लिए अवेलेबल होगा. मेड भी पीएसयू कंपनीज है या प्राइवेट कंपनीज है, उनको एक बड़ा अपॉर्चुनिटी मार्केट साइज जो मिल सकता है, एक वो उनको हासिल हो सकता है. इंक्रीज प्रोटेक्शन. सो ग्लोबली हमने वो भी एक देखा है कि विद द लॉट ऑफ इंक्रीजिंग कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स एंड वेस्टर्न इंटरेस्ट, काफी कंट्रीज अभी उनका जो डिफेंस प्रोक्योरमेंट है वो लोकली मैन्युफैक्चर करना चाह रहे हैं. सो इज आल्सो इंडियन गवर्नमेंट एज वेल. Like every government is prioritizing domestic manufacturing for defense, that is self-reliance. At the same time, it also helps boost the economy, create more jobs, and more importantly, it also helps to save forex as well. कि जहाँ पे हम लोग इंडियन कंट्री से डेवलपिंग कंट्री, जहाँ पे हम लोगों को काफी फॉरेक्स का इंपॉर्टेंस होता है, और अगर हम लोग इंपोर्ट बिल ऑन डिफेंस अगर कट डाउन कर सकते हैं तो it will help us to save the forex reserves as well. This is a opportunity set for the defense companies. We have seen very strong growth rate here. The blue data in the bar in the chart shows domestic capital spend, and orange is also showing a very good growth, which is export. Not just we are manufacturing a lot of equipment that have been required by us indigenously, but also we are looking to export them as well. We have already started exporting to many countries, and significant equipment that have been exported to outside India is some aircraft, some artillery guns, and few missiles as well. And it is expected this export to maybe triple over the next 4 to 5 years, particularly. Some of the constituents, so defense में काफी कम companies अभी listed है जो हमें available है, but some of the important constituents are Hindustan Aeronautics जो तेजस एयरक्राफ्ट बनाती है, कुछ हेलीकॉप्टर भी बनाती है चेतक और ध्रुव जैसे, भारत इलेक्ट्रिकल्स लिमिटेड भी आपको अतुल्य जो एक एयर डिफेंस फायर कंट्रोल रडार बनाता है, या फिर जो लेजर टारगेट डेजिग्नेटर जो होता है वो बनाते हैं, ड्रोन डिटेक्टर बनाते हैं. Moving on, we all probably know this company also, Mazda Shipyard, who has manufactured quite a few submarines for us, prepared destroyer and missile boats as well. Cochin Shipyard has been very prominent in offering maintenance services for the aircraft carrier and tanks as well. There are new names to this also. These are all PSU names which we have probably seen earlier, but particularly MTAR and Data Pattern, these are the recent listings, which also have good support to defense sector. MTAR has been manufacturing helicopter housing and some spare parts for the Tejas aircraft. And so is for Data Pattern, which is manufacturing technologically advanced equipment such as radar systems and low-level radar tracking, known as Ashwini particularly. So this is a particular background of the defense sector, but it is also interesting to compare our defense sector to global counterpart. And I think we always have had look back to US, so we thought that we will compare US. So अगर आप यहाँ पे देखते हैं तो जो यूएस की जो 4 सबसे बड़ी कंपनीज है उनका रेवेन्यू अगर हम लोग देखते हैं तो इट हैज ग्रोन क्वाइट वेल ओवर द लास्ट 4 to 5 years, and they have revenues of about 227 billion as of end of 2023. अगर हम लोग कंपनी स्पेसिफिक देखते हैं तो उनका रेवेन्यू भी काफी बड़ा है. इन फ्रंट ऑफ देम हमारा जो रेवेन्यू है इंडियन कंपनीज का, जो 4 लार्जेस्ट कंपनीज है उनका रेवेन्यू काफी छोटा है, बट व्हाट इट शोज अस दैट कि अपॉर्चुनिटी कितना बड़ा है. We can have a good growth prospect in the future because we are not just looking for the Indian requirement, we are also looking to exports as well. So opportunity for the defense sector can be quite large. Of course, this is a very long-term perspective because US has grown to this size after multi-decades. But idea is to, of course, with the technological advancement India taking place, I think we will also see some similar trend as we progress in the defense particularly. So this was a primer on the defense sector particularly. I think if I have to summarize this, what I believe is that I think increasing budget allocation to defense sector is a very catalyst. Not just that, but also modernization of a defense equipment is also a very important part of it. And I think indigenous manufacturing, government's focus on indigenous manufacturing, जो हमें local manufacturing पे काफी ज़्यादा focus जो आ रहा है, that is also an important part of defense driver. And export is going to play also another important role over the next few years, which will propel the lot of defense companies to grow in terms of revenue and profitability as well. So with this, we'll start with the fund information. If you look, Motilal Oswal Nifty India Defense Index Fund, this is the index fund format, like any other mutual fund. The minimum investment for this fund is of course 500 rupees and onwards. The benchmark is Nifty India Defense Total Return Index. ये इंडेक्स कैसे बना है? सो अगर हमने काफी रिसर्च किया था इसके ऊपर और अलॉन्ग विद निफ्टी इंडिसेस पर्टिकुलरली. सो ये इंडेक्स में से 750 कंपनीज जो होती है, जो टॉप 750 कंपनीज है दैट आर पार्ट ऑफ टोटल मार्केट इंडेक्स, उसमें 750 कंपनीज में से जो कंपनीज एक डिफेंस वेबसाइट के ऊपर एक SIDM करके एक क्लब है, वो है सोसाइटी ऑफ इंडियन डिफेंस मैन्युफैक्चरर्स, उसमें उसका मेंबरशिप होना चाहिए. And the revenue of that particular company should be at least 10% coming from the defense sector particularly. ये दो condition बहुत important है. So just to repeat, 750 companies largest company जो होती है उसमें से SIDM में जो listed है and उनका revenue जो है at least 10% is coming from the defense sector particularly, who will be part of this index. And इस index का rebalancing जो है मार्च और सितंबर में होगा. इसका जो weighing है, जो stock का weighting होता है, जो free float market cap पे होता है, but market cap, free float market cap पे maximum weight cap भी लगाया हुआ है. So the maximum weight of a stock is capped at 20% particularly. So index is rebalanced semi-annually, March and September, and maximum weight of a stock is capped at 20%. This is a composition of a defense index. Top 10 stocks. So this index includes about 15 companies in the index right now. Top 3, top 5 companies are very heavy in terms of their size, and that's where we see the weight also being top 10 companies accounting for close to 95% of the weight. But that's how the thematic fund would always look like to you, कि जहाँ पे concentration काफी ज़्यादा हो सकता है. इसमें industrial commodity sector से पूरा universe बना हुआ है. That's the methodology requirement. Large cap में 42% weight है, mid cap में 20% and small cap में 37% weight इस index में आता है. दिस इंडेक्स का जो डिफेंस कंपनीज इन इंडिया एक्चुअली जो अगर आप देखते हो इसका हिस्ट्री बहुत कम अवेलेबल है. 2018 से इस इंडेक्स का हिस्ट्री स्टार्ट होता है, एंड इफ यू सी द समवेयर मिड 2020 द रियल ब्रेक थ्रू फॉर द डिफेंस सेक्टर हैज स्टार्टेड, जहां से आउट परफॉर्मेंस हैज बिगन एंड द ब्रेक इवन हैपन एट अराउंड 2022, एंड फ्रॉम देयर द काफी अलग परफॉर्मेंस दिया हुआ है डिफेंस इंडेक्स में. पर्टिकुलरली अगर हम उसको कैलेंडर में देखते हैं तो आप अगर देखोगे तो 2020-21 से लगातार डिफेंस सेक्टर ने काफी ज्यादा बेहतर परफॉर्मेंस दिया हुआ है कंपेयर टू द निफ्टी 50 इंडेक्स पर्टिकुलरली. अगर हम लोग पॉइंट टू पॉइंट रिटर्न्स के नंबर्स देखते हैं तो लास्ट 1 year रिटर्न हैज बीन 177%. दिस इज एज ऑफ द एंड ऑफ मे, and 3-year CAGR is 89% and 5-year CAGR is 55%. At the same time, I would like to also inform the investor that because ये thematic index है, इसमें volatility ज़्यादा होता है ब्रॉड मार्केट के कंपैरिजन में. आप अगर देखोगे तो लॉन्ग टर्म का भी वॉलिटिलिटी अगर हम लोग देखते हैं तो जहाँ पे निफ्टी का वॉलिटिलिटी अबाउट 19% है, तो उसके सामने डिफेंस का वॉलिटिलिटी अबाउट 26% है. सो अगर जो इन्वेस्टर्स लॉन्ग टर्म इसमें होल्ड करना चाहते हैं, दिस कैन बी वेरी गुड अपॉर्चुनिटी फॉर इन्वेस्टर्स टू मेक अ गुड capital gains out of this particular fund. SIP returns for the last 5 years has been also quite impressive. 1 year, this chart shows 10,000 का SIP for every month. So 120,000 अगर आपने इन्वेस्ट किया होता है लास्ट मंथ में, तो कैगर जो उसका होता है XIR rather will be 198%. 5 year का XIR अगर 77% approximately बन जाता. Now this is a very interesting slide. A lot of investors have questions toward the valuations. And we'll of course address that. Currently looking at the valuation and run up that it had, valuations looks compared to historical average, it looks expensive. But according to me particularly, ये जो valuation है ये growth sector है और इसका growth का trajectory अभी just start हुआ है, तो मुझे लगता है कि ये valuation keeping in mind the current run up and the potential in the future, this is a reasonable valuation or slightly expensive, but it is not very concerning kind of thing, probably, if I can say that way. Just to summarize the entire presentation, I think domestic defense sector is expected to grow multi-bounds. According to Nomura, this sector is expected to grow to over 220 billion over the next 5 to 6 years. The real driver for this sector are government's policies that are very helpful for the PSUs and private corporate sector to come and make a important contribution in defense sector. Government has made a lot of provisions that are increasing the indigenous production or making India for defense sector as well. And budget allocation has been quite high for the defense sector. So keeping in mind all of these things, we think that defense can be a very important part of the growth for the Indian economy particularly. Yeah. Maybe we can take the questions now.
So participants, if you have any question, you can write it in the chat box. So we have few questions, Mahavir. So like the basic questions which I'll answer. So this fund is closing on 27th of June. It was like the period has been extended. So 27th is the last date if somebody wanted to like go for this NFO. And so few questions which some investor wanted to ask. What would be the like expectation which we can keep for like next 5 years in this particular NFO?
I think it is difficult to really put down some numbers to expectations, but like we said, there are a lot of positive drivers for this particular theme. Government का काफी अच्छा support आ रहा है, policy changes काफी अच्छे हो रहे हैं. Keeping in mind all of these things, this can be a good sector. ऑल्सो अभी रिसेंट काफी रनअप हुआ है, बट अगर कोई इन्वेस्टर लॉन्ग टर्म है तो दिस कैन बी वेरी अट्रैक्टिव अपॉर्चुनिटी फॉर द इन्वेस्टर्स टू इन्वेस्ट टू दिस पर्टिकुलर फंड. We just had a look at some profitability numbers also. जो अभी रनअप हुआ है, we were actually also wanted to understand कि रनअप में profitability सपोर्ट करता है क्या. तो हमने देखा कि लास्ट 3 साल में जो ये कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट कंपनीज है इस इंडेक्स की, उसमें ऑन एन एवरेज आई थिंक प्रॉफिट लास्ट 3 इयर्स में डबल हुआ है, एटलीस्ट डबल हुआ है, इफ नॉट मोर. काफी कंपनीज का तो 3 गुना 4 गुना या 5 गुना भी प्रॉफिट बढ़ा हुआ है, बट एवरेज प्रॉफिटेबल ग्रोथ हैज बीन एटलीस्ट 2 times फॉर द एंटायर इंडेक्स.
अच्छा, महावीर, इवन लाइक कस्टमर इज आस्किंग कि जैसे पब्लिक सेक्टर कंपनीज हैं इस पोर्टफोलियो में, सो हाउ द companies performing on timely delivery orders, like recently HAL said कि 90 odd they just supposed to be delivered in 2024, but abhi time period is more. So how these companies will perform, like one of the investors asking, and what, like these companies are more there in this particular index, so how the performance would be.
It is difficult to comment again on the how they will deliver. I mean, it is too far-fetched question probably to my mind. But what I can talk about is that they have very strong order book. I mean, I was looking at the data just like when you were asking the question, and I have seen the top 5 companies itself account for order book of close to 150,000, 1 lakh crore. 1 lakh crore is the order book for the top 5 companies particularly. So order book is काफी strong is companies का. Sorry, 150,000, my bad. So 1,50,000 crore का ऑर्डर बुक टॉप 5 कंपनीज का है. ओवरऑल इंडेक्स कंपनीज का अगर मैं ऑर्डर बुक की बात करता हूँ तो वो 2-2.5 लाख करोड़ का ऑर्डर बुक है अभी. इसमें डिले थोड़ा पॉसिबल एक्सपेक्टेड है. लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स टेक्नोलॉजिकली भी कभी कभी चैलेंज आ सकते हैं, बट अगर ऑर्डर बुक स्ट्रांग है तो प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी ग्रोथ भी काफी अच्छा हो सकता है.
Yeah, okay, understood. So another question is like how this fund is different from, so in defense sector, I'll tell all the investors that one active scheme is also there. So one customer is asking like how is the fund different from HDFC defense fund?
So I would not be able to comment on the competition fund, but I can talk about what are the features of our fund. सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट है कि हमारा जो फंड है काफी रूल बेस्ड रहेगा, स्ट्रिक्टली ट्रांसपेरेंट मेथोलॉजी है, ऑब्जेक्टिव स्टॉक सिलेक्शन रहेगा. आपको पता है कि उसका कांस्टेंट कौन सा क्या है, कब चेंज हो रहा है. उसका उसका अनाउंसमेंट एटलीस्ट अ वीक बिफोर आता है कि जो कोई नया स्टॉक एड ड्रॉप होता है तो उसका वेइंग रिबैलेंसिंग हो रहा है तभी भी आपको अनाउंसमेंट मिलता है. So I think being a passive, that is the biggest advantage. At the same time, आपको एक लो कॉस्ट प्रोडक्ट, आपको वही बढ़िया पैसिव डिफेंस फंड का जो रिटर्न्स होगा वो आपको मिलने की संभावना होती है इसमें. So keeping that in mind, the passive fund that we have would be a good opportunity compared to active and passive.
Okay. So some questions like how to invest in that. So customers, so I'll ask my customers, so like if you can go to the net banking, so if you'll go to the online portal, there is option wherein if you go to the NFO segment, there is one option wherein you will see कि ये सारे NFOs, what all the NFOs which are currently going on, वो वहाँ से देख सकते हैं. By clicking there, you can invest in NFO, and apart from that, if you are not tech savvy, so I request you to just get in touch with your relationship manager, whoever is, and the relationship manager will definitely help you to invest in this particular NFO. So like one investor is asking like what do you mean by long term? So what would be the period which we should consider in terms of long term and in this particular scheme?
Correct. I think equity investment is very good. अगर आप जितना लंबा समय रहोगे उसमें, the chances of a negative returns or the losses will be reduced significantly. That is the learning we have had with any equity market, maybe India or any developed market or emerging market. Thematic है तो मैं थोड़ा और safeguard बोलूँगा. I think anything beyond 5 to 6 years would be a better one. I mean, अगर आपको बेहतर रिटर्न अगर पहले ही मिलते हैं तो you can of course choose to take your own call. But I think जब आप निवेश करना चाहते हो तो एक लॉन्ग टर्म का नजरिया रख के ही आप इन्वेस्टमेंट करोगे ज्यादा बेहतर रहेगा. कुछ इन्वेस्टर्स जिसको रिस्क एपेटाइट है उनके लिए काफी बढ़िया फंड होगा ये. SIP एक अच्छा बेहतर मोड ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट हो सकता है इसमें.
Okay. So I think one customer has asked the same question कि lump sum करना ठीक रहेगा या SIP. So I think yes, it depends. If you have regular income, SIP is the best option, and this is one of the good theme wherein we can invest in. Apart from that, if you have lump sum, so you can put some money there. But yes, time horizon जैसा कि महावीर ने कहा, अगर आपका time horizon लंबा है, लंबा in the sense 5 year plus है, so definitely we can expect a good return over here.
Right.
Mahavir, is there any minimum limit to invest in this particular fund? One customer is asking.
I think तो idea of Motilal Oswal, अभी अगर Motilal का कोई भी passive fund देखोगे आपको, तो minimum investment amount is 500 rupees. This is intentionally kept so low because a lot of investors who want to invest to start investing with a very small amount, they should be enabled to that. So in this one also, we have kept the minimum investment amount to 500 rupees. So you can start with just as low as 500 rupees.
Okay. So I think we have covered most of the question, and some are very similar to the one which we have already answered. Okay, so we'll take one last question wherein customer is asking like, I got a retirement fund, should I invest in this and should I go for SWP for next 15 years?
Could you repeat? I lost you for a second in between.
Okay, so one customer got the retirement fund, and he's just asking like if I'll invest in this particular scheme and if I'll go for SWP for next 15 years, how the thing would be.
I think मुझे लगता है कि ये इसमें ना आपका जो एडवाइजरी है वो काफी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले करेगा, बिकॉज ये रिटायरमेंट फंड पर्टिकुलरली जिसका भी लंबा समय इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए अगर होगा उसके हिसाब से मैं ये सही इतना ही बताऊंगा यहाँ पे, बिकॉज एडवाइजरी इज समथिंग आई वुड ट्राई टू अवॉइड हियर राइट नाउ. Specific investor specific advisory would be avoided.
Correct. So because it varies, so I request you sir to get in touch with your relationship manager, because उसके पहले काफी चीजें रहती हैं जो हमको देखनी रहती हैं. Horizon, उसके बाद risk appetite. There are many things which we have to evaluate. So request you to get in touch with your relationship manager. He will definitely guide you as per your risk appetite, as per your time horizon, and other many things which he'll ask. So I believe Mahavir, we have answered most of the questions. Okay, one last question we are going to take, and that question is like, as all defense stocks has rallied too much in last one and a half year, will they correct much in near term, and how much can they correct approximately?
It is one of the most difficult question, to be honest. I think market है, volatility expected है, जो stock run up हुआ है. Sometimes the theme is so strong, it may continue doing well also, or at times it may have short term correction. But like we have seen a lot of fundamental reasons that are driving the growth of the stocks. जो run up हुआ है ये bubble वाला run up नहीं लगा हमें. हमने काफी बबल रिसर्च किया है और ये बबल वाला पक्का नहीं लगा. काफी सारा फंडामेंटल चेंजेस हो रहा है गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसीज में, गवर्नमेंट सपोर्ट में, डिफेंस का बजट बढ़ रहा है, इंडियन मेक इन इंडिया पे ज्यादा ये हो रहा है. सो कीपिंग ऑल दिस थिंग इन माइंड, वी थिंक दैट शॉर्ट टर्म में एक्सपीरियंस वॉलेटिलिटी, बट ओवर द लॉन्गर टर्म इट कैन बी अ गुड वेल्थ क्रिएशन जर्नी फॉर द इन्वेस्टर्स.
Correct. Agree. So I think we have covered all the questions, Mahavir, and thank you for taking all the time and sharing such a great insight regarding this particular NFO. And I request all the participants kindly get in touch with your relationship manager. Definitely they'll help you to invest in this particular scheme, as well as apart from that, if there will be any other option which will suit you, they will definitely guide you for the investment. So thank you for joining this webinar, and thank you Mahavir for
Thank you
for the session.
Thank you. Have a good day, guys. Bye.